like to welcome you to the show, New Life Recovery. My name is Donnie Glover, and we have with us our fearless leader, Van McCormick. Good afternoon, sir. Happy week to you. Happy Monday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have a brand new week, a brand new opportunity to serve, a brand new opportunity to bring our format to the viewing public. So thank you, Donnie Glover, for your facilitation, man, and all your bright ideas, some of which have yet to have been unearthed.
Well, since you're in, I'm glad you have such a wonderful sense of humor. Would you be so kind as to start us off with a brief prayer?
Okay, sure. I'm always ready to pray, bro.
I love it, man. Prayer changes things.
All the time, man. I bear witness to the fact. Father God, we thank you for another day. We thank you for another opportunity to serve you and your people. We thank you for another opportunity just to show you that we love you. We ask the blessing of this show. The facilitators, Father, we ask the blessing of the people who are viewing, that you would test their lives and their hearts, Father, and those who don't have an understanding, that you would change them, Father. Those who seek to be changed from any mental health illness or the grips of addiction, that you would move them beyond that, Father, to their rightful places, and you would restore them and their households, Father. Please touch the youth of our city who need so much help and guidance, Father. And we ask these things in the majestic name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. You know, my daddy said, always thank the Lord. And I thank you. I thank God then that you appreciate the power of prayer yourself. You know, it was on a Monday. I was a little kid. I stayed at my grandma's at 2100 Westwood. That's Westwood and Pulaski.
I know it.
We lived over East Baltimore. I know about North and P, Dodge City, but every Monday at 4 p.m. Now, you from Baltimore, right?
Born and bred.
When you were like 6, 7 years old, what were you doing at 3 o'clock Monday through Friday, or at least Monday through Thursday?
3 o'clock?
3 o'clock.
6 or 7?
Yes.
6 or 7, 3 o'clock. I was probably on my way home from Merritt Point Elementary School, Donnie, which is in Baltimore County. I'm from Dundalk.
Well, we got out of school at 2:30, and there was a line. I remember it. Lost at sea. He was really a sight.
Captain Steve.
Yeah, you go, man.
Captain Chesapeake and Moni.
And Mondi, yes.
Moni the sea monster.
Then at 4 o'clock on Monday, all of that got interrupted because the praying man was going to knock on the door at 4 o'clock sharp. And whatever you thought you was going to be doing, you ain't doing that. You getting down on your knees and pray. And years later, then I can so thank God for the things that happened as a result. I just thank God that he put it in my soul early on to call on God to say that prayer. What about you? What'd you say about prayer?
Well, first, my grandmother used to pray because I was raised by my maternal grandmother in Turner Station, and God bless Ella Walker. And she used to pray, and she used to make me pray, right? She taught me how to bless my food, Donnie. She taught me how to pray in church. You know, she showed me how to say my prayers at night. You know, and I didn't realize the value of that. Of course, I was a little boy trying to get it over it quickly, you know. And as I got older and I saw how my life changed, and I saw the value of spirituality in my life as an adult, I had to learn how to pray on my own, right? And it's interesting because when we get older and we get our own understanding of God, not your grandmother's God or your mother's God, you know, not the one you watched on TV with Charlton Heston when he took his staff and parted the Red Sea in Hollywood, your own God, right? And you just develop that personal relationship. And then if you have the courage and the desire to understand how necessary prayer is in your own life individually, for the full effect in your family, right? As I did, I'm very fortunate to have gotten to that level of understanding, because we don't all get there. We don't all get to understand the need of prayer in our own lives, understand that those of around us benefit from that growth, right? I came to an understanding it wasn't just for my personal benefit, um, to learn how to pray and develop a relationship. It also became important that I did for the sake of my daughter, who's 21 now, about to turn 22, that I was able to enact and impart things with her spiritually, to grow her or to show her or to just give her some ideas, because she's got to get her own relationship just like I did. I can't force my daughter to do anything spiritually. She got to develop her own relationship with her own God. She's got to develop her own prayer. And so it's important for us not to impress upon other people, Donnie, our loved ones, our spouses, our impression or understanding or interpretation of God or prayer. It's important that you let people be who they are. And I think sometimes some of us, especially when we get letters behind our names, or we get, we graduate from this divinity school, or that we impart what we think people should do upon them. I know some situations personally about that. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to give them an idea of, and then let them make their own decisions, right? Other than that, you being inconsiderate and narcissistic, right? It's not for you to give anybody God or give them your God, right? It's for their own interpretation, um, and their own desires. And that's what I've learned in my own spiritual growth.
What about fasting? Do you fast?
Are you saying that because last time we got together you saw my gut? No, so I don't.
No.
I'm just kidding, G.
Well, it was in a personal situation. A very special friend of mine was dealing with last week a stressful situation involving family, school, work, and they told me that they fasted for 3 days. And they told me that during that time of sitting still, of not eating, drinking water, that an answer that they were looking for came to them. And
So
it just reminded me, we hear it talked about in church. We hear people talk about getting closer to God. And you said last week that it's not just about not putting the drugs, the alcohol, the gambling, the pornography. Not it's more than not engaging in those things. It's also replacing those things with activities that get us closer to God.
absolutely, and to your question, I personally have not been a big person who deals in fasting. Um, I personally haven't, and I don't want to get into the religious aspect of that. I'm familiar with it and what it's supposed to do. I have not been disciplined enough, and I'll put it on that. I have not been disciplined enough to do that. But I'm gonna tell you what I have done um, in that area religiously, right? Without focusing on that, I have denied myself, because I understand also that that's about denial, right? Denying ourselves certain things that we are accustomed to, or I won't say addicted to, but accustomed to. So I stopped doing red meat for a period of time. Good afternoon, Mike. I want to make sure we acknowledge that, brother, because he's consistent. I deny myself some beef, for the sake of trying to live healthier, because fasting is a spiritual endeavor, and I understand it's to deny yourself something for the sake of being able to have a closer connection spiritually to God, and to allow Him to speak to you in that moment that you are in fact denying yourself of something. And they got different religions do it different ways. Christians do it a little differently than they do the Muslim faith, Ramadan stuff like that. And I have not been a person who has partaking of fasting. To answer your question.
I partook of that the Ramadan
Okay,
before, and it's great discipline. I find that today I only really eat one meal a day.
is that right? That's good.
Well, when I feed my German Shepherd, I do take a bite of his food, but I'm just testing it to make sure it's good. Listen, Van, we have with us on the line. He wasn't able to tap in virtually, but we have on the line with us Reverend Corey Bonds. Hello, Corey.
Hey, how are you, Brother Donnie? Brother Ben, how are you, sir?
Hey, brother Barnes, how are you, Pastor? Good to hear your voice, man. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, sir. I'm honored. I'm absolutely honored.
So, Reverend Bonds, and forgive me, I shouldn't have said Corey, but we've known each other since our days at Coppin. You've been active in the
Yes,
community, including Sandtown. You were a teacher at New
yes,
Song. You were active ever since the 2015 uh, situation with Freddie Gray,
yes,
community meetings. Um,
yes.
how have you been?
Man, I've been great. We've been excited about the work we've been doing in the city and being able to be at the table, something we haven't seen in many years, community at the table, and beginning to speak into the problems of our city in ways that in giving an angle from a community angle. That's so exciting on where we are right now. You know.
So, tell us about We Our Us.
Yep. We Are Us is a community engagement movement started in 2018 with Dr. Bunley and Andrew Knox Muhammad. And, it was birthed out of the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement with Sister Catherine Pugh, who actually started that office when she was mayor. And from there, we've been doing four things for the past 6 years. It's protecting, connecting, messaging, and mediating. And we've been doing those four things for the last 6 years, helping to transform our community and transform the lives of our people. And so there are four pillars that we've been operating in. So, yeah, that's what we've been doing: protect, connect, mediate, and message. Yeah.
So, Reverend Bonds, the purpose of this show, the New Life Recovery Show, is to speak to the mental health challenges.
Yes.
Yes, New Life Recovery, the center itself here in the on St. Paul Street, opposite the courthouse. Yes, this is a place for drug and alcohol treatment.
Yes.
But as you know, there are other things that threaten our spirit, other addictions like gambling,
Yes.
like being broke. That's a bad.
Yes.
Then would you agree that's a bad habit too? Being
That's a bad,
broke.
that's a bad habit. That leads to a lot of things.
Yeah. So, any thoughts on? So here we're talking about mental health. When I have seen We Our Us, and let's just pick a corner opposite the Lord's Church up there in the 5000 block of Park Heights or around on Belvedere. I cannot forget the images of a group of men, mostly black men, in a 63% black, 73% black and brown city, engaging young black men.
Yes.
I cannot erase what I have seen. What's what's the mental health of the young men you typically encounter?
That's a great question, Brother Donnie. Let me first say I want to thank Vin and New Life Recovery for being a partner of We Are Us because, like you said, when we engage, there are one of the things that we're engaged in. I'll use another example. When we're down on Pennsylvania Avenue, we engage in individuals who are suffering, dealing with substance abuse. And one of the things we try to do when we engage is that we don't just engage just to have a conversation. We want to connect resources so that people's lives can be transformed in that moment. So what we do in mental health, what we see when we walk on the corner is that people are in a bad condition, and oftentimes they're in really bad shape. Um, but they're also, we've met many that are postured to go into rehab right there at that moment. And so we don't want to lose that moment. So what we do, we have brothers like Vin, New Life Recovery, that we can put these individuals inside of a car and take them right to detox and begin to start the process. So we're grateful for individuals like Vin and New Life Recovery that is able to enable we are us to do that level of engagement and bring resources right then and there. So as we look at the mental health, one of the things, the word I often use is that our people are suffering. There is a lot of suffering in our community. Um, we all know that social deterrence is 80% of what people go through before they even go to a hospital. So they're dealing with social deterrence determines rather how one's life can be determined based on food and the things that they're lacking and not lack, and depression and anxiety and all of those things come along with that. And so when we address and engage, we're also engaging with something in our hand that helps address the social deterrence of so if someone's hungry, we give them food. If they need other things outside of what they're facing right then and there, we have those resources available. Housing, we were able to pick the phone up. So all of that plays a part in our mental health. The housing insecurity, whether I have somewhere to eat, whether I have something to eat or drink, or rather somewhere to live, that goes back to Maslow hierarchy of need, which is we gotta take care of basic food needs and security. And then it's not until we go up to the scale that we're able to lower part of the pyramid where we're able to thrive and flourish. So we first of all have to understand that the mental health aspect of it, like people, we have to address the immediate needs right away in order for people and then you have trauma related issues in our community where what we don't understand is that when we see gunshots and what I didn't realize was trauma, Brother Donnie, was people would get shot and we would run to the area. Who got shot? Let's go down there and see. That's what we did in the city. Someone would get shot, then we go where the gunshot, where someone got shot. What we did not know, and we finally got language to this, is that that's traumatizing secondhand trauma that we have injected ourselves with experiencing, but we just go through life surviving. It's just a way of life, and it's not normal. And those things that we thought were normal, we're discovering that are not normal, and also impacting our lives with anxiety, depression, and inability to have we have an ability to express ourselves and put voice to our suffering.
Rev, I got to jump in here.
Yeah.
You have taken me back to Sandtown to the corner of Curry and Lawrence.
Yes, sir.
A car came speeding up Lawrence from Pennsylvania Avenue. A woman was
Yes.
crossing the street.
Yes, sir.
Two people stepped back. She stepped forward. The car hit her. She went through the air like a football.
Yes.
I am a newsman. I was traumatized.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And the car kept going.
Yes.
And I will not tell you I was okay that night. The lady is okay miraculously. Then she went through the air, head over heels over head, like a football, and dude kept going.
Yep. Yep.
Come on, Rev.
Yeah, and that those are, like you said, like that was a traumatizing moment for you. And another example of that was the young 14-year-old we engaged in. She got shot in front of the rec center, but it was 109. It was I think it's like 59 young people that was around, that experienced that. That was secondhand trauma that they were dealing with. And so what we don't understand is that, especially within a community of violence that experience violence, that trauma is one that does the shooting, and people on both sides of the shooting. When you shoot someone, you're traumatizing yourself along with the people that has the impact of the bullet and the people that observe it.
Let me bring in Vin. Vin, have you seen something that traumatized you in the streets of Baltimore, or
Oh,
even the other places you've been? The military. I mean, you told us once, Vin, because you were airborne, how you were used to seeing people jump out them planes and the chute open. And this one particular situation, dude's chute did not open, and he hit the ground,
yeah.
and it was ding ding over.
Yeah, I shared with Donnie. So I in one of our I'm prior 82nd, 82nd Airborne all the way. I've always been a thrill seeker. So past when I was on a jump one day, we um we were jumping. It's called a double door jump. That means the soldiers coming out of both doors of a C-130. It's a beautiful thing to see. So I hit the ground and I was rolling up my chute, and I just like to sit back when I hit the ground, and I would watch the rest of the guys come out. That's a spectacle, man. Even if you're doing it and you're part of it, it's just a spectacle. So anyway, I was watching and I noticed. So when you're doing it and you understand how long it takes from the time you jump out the plane for the main to pop open, because it's being pulled open by a jump static cord, right? It happens kind of quickly. Within, I think, 5 seconds of the time you jump out the plane, and you're supposed to count 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000. If you get to 5 1,000 and you don't feel the snap of your static cord pulling your main out, you are taught to pull your reserve, which is in the front of you, right? I was watching this guy. He was a Hispanic guy, and I was watching. I didn't know who it was at the time. I was watching this one soldier. His main didn't pop open, and I'm watching him fall. He's starting to fall faster than the people he came out the doors with, because his chute didn't open, so it's nothing to slow his fall. And I'm watching him fall, and I'm like, when is this dude gonna pull his main? I mean, his reserve. So I'm rolling my chute. I'm like, what? He need to pull his reserve. And I'm watching, and he's falling because we jumped from 3,000 feet, which isn't very very far, right? And I'm watching because the design is to drop when you're airborne. It's a 3,000 foot drop behind enemy lines normally, or I shouldn't say that, in enemy territory. So I'm watching him, and he never pulls his reserve. And I'm like, at a certain point, it's too late to pull your reserve. And I'm wondering why this guy is not pulling reserve. I said, I know he'll pull a reserve. And I'm watching him, and he hit the ground. And when he hit the ground, I've never seen this happen ever in life. It was traumatizing. I didn't know it then. It hit the ground, and it jumped. It hit and came up about 10 feet, and then hit again. But when he hit, you could see from a distance, you could see fluid coming out of his nose, mouth, ears. So of course we go to the body. And I'm gonna tell you something. I didn't want to jump anymore after that. And what we did when we got back to the barracks, we went and got as much liquor as we could afford out of our pockets at the time, and talked and cried and drank for the next 3-4 days. Matter of fact, I think the next day, that was a Tuesday or Wednesday, because this was an exercise. We weren't in enemy. We weren't at war, because you had to jump every 90 days when you're 82nd or Delta. You do it periodically to keep up your training. And we were drinking into the next business day, and I still think about that, man. I still think about that guy not pulling his reserve, which they found out was in perfect order, and nobody knows what happened. But that was traumatic, and this was in 1985.
So Reverend Barnes, any thoughts on, and Michael Randolph noted it in his comments, long-term trauma, intergenerational trauma?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. What's amazing about trauma is that you know everybody. It's not the incident itself. It's trauma is actually the after effects of it. And so everybody responds differently. Dr. Bundy always tells a story that he graduated from Penn State and his brother graduated from the state pen, and they all lived in the same home. Well, trauma is very similar. You can have the same incident be in the same car accident, and some people would affect one way, then the other would affect another way. And when we use the word trauma, oftentimes we're talking about the alarm going off, and you're actually stuck in that place where you were, even though you're living life in another time and space, and you reverse back to that time. So what I will say about that is that as Ben just talked about how we use coping mechanisms to try to deal with the trauma. And many of us, especially Black men, because we weren't taught to put voice to suffering, that's exactly what we do. We use other things other than having a voice, putting voice to the suffering that we're feeling on the inside. And that becomes so important. Like Ben said, we drank. But my question is, how much did we talk? You know what I mean? How much did we began to put verbal language to what I was feeling inside? And that's where I think, as a community, we weren't taught that. And even as men, you fall down, they tell you get up. You get up, boy. You all right? You okay? No, I'm not okay. I actually feel pain, and my leg is bothering me right now, but I didn't have the language to that, because from a very young age, when you fall down, they tell you, get up, you okay. You know what I mean? So that's a part of our trauma that we continue to work on as a community as well.
So Vin is over here shaking his head. Vin, you can relate to this?
Oh yeah, I fully. Pastor Corey is bringing some examples up that I can identify with wholeheartedly. I was raised by my maternal grandmother down in Turner Station. My biological father, without getting into a lot of detail, he was abusive, and he used to punch me in the chest as a 3 and 4-year-old, trying to make me tough. And I remember those days. And I remember, Pastor growing up in a group of men, going to Rockland Middle School, and they would give me a cigarette. This first time I ever smoked a Newport in my life. They passed me, hey, smoke that, McCormick. Boy, hold that smoke in. This was a group of my, I won't say my friends, my associates, my age, trying to show me how to smoke. You better not blow the smoke up. Go ahead, blow it up, McCormick. They would teach me how to smoke, right? I can remember being in situations where I was in a fight as a young man and being told, if you don't beat him up, I'm gonna beat you up. By parents. That sort of thing.
My mother told me that.
Yeah, man. And what do you do in that? So I
You
had
better
fear.
fight.
I had fear on both sides. Fear on both sides.
You gotta fight.
Absolutely, man. Here's the thing, though, Donnie. Fighting when I ain't really want to fight, though, man.
Your mother told you don't come in here crying. You ain't had no choice.
And to Pastor's point, I ain't had no voice to that. I didn't have no voice to that. No voice to that. I could not say to my parents, I don't want to fight, and I couldn't go to the dude on the street who wanted to fight me. I couldn't say that to either one of them. So I can just imagine, right, with the youth of today who had those same issues, right? That sort of thing still go on, right?
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Now they're dealing with cyberbullying.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so technologically we're more advanced, but there's greater harm available also technologically or electronically. And we were at something recently where they were talking about the suicide rate. The teen suicide rate is higher in Baltimore and in the nation that it's ever been, and much of that is attributed to the internet, right? Cyberbullying and the kids wanting to be liked by strangers and that sort of thing. So, And I'm sure Pastor can speak to that.
Come on, Pastor.
Yeah, I mean, you would be amazed at, and so you have cyberbullying, and we always talk about the victims of that. But now there's a whole culture right now of warring and fighting and gunplay that has to do with social media and on the cyber side of things. And so it's a real problem because we think about the mental side of that, we have created images of ourselves from social media that then gets exposed to be something else, or someone's going back and forth with me, and I'm not who I say that I am on social media, and then I have to deal with the realities of that. It has become a major problem in our community, but more importantly, as Vince said, suicidal rate is high, and these false images and people being catfished into all kinds of situations and circumstances and ways to abuse our children. It has become a mechanism that is used that we need to really get a different perspective on how these things are supposed to be used, and so that our children don't suffer, because a lot of the anxiety that our children are facing is this thing called comparison. And so they're comparing themselves to social media when many of them are comparing themselves to a false image. And so you have the BBLs, you have nobody is real anymore. These young ladies are trying to create an image that's been created on a screen in a scene, and nobody are in touch with or are acceptable of them real selves or how they were created. And so you got a lot of psychological, emotional things going on from this cyber world. So,
what was that? What was that abbreviation you used? BBL?
Yes, the fake butts, where they put fake butts on. Yeah, you know what I mean? The Brazilian something.
Oh, Brazilian butt lift.
Yeah, butt lift. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you saying people getting these things done to their body? I mean, with all due respect, I mean, then you slow me down if I veer out of line. But when I think of how about this? I won't say names, but there's a famous singer lady, and she's had a bunch of facelifts. Or famous actors, or oh my goodness, people who even changed their sex. If whatever that entails, with all due respect. Then you run a program. I guess you accept everybody. You have does this cause some tension?
So I'm clear on the question, because and I know Pastor knows.
Well, you serve everybody, and that's all.
Exactly. Let me put it this way: I'm mandated by the state to accept everyone, and because I want to keep my accreditation and my licensure,
yes,
we accept everyone.
Right. So Reverend Bonds, how do we all as a society become more accepting of everybody?
Yeah, I think the key to us is understanding that, and I think that's why this conversation is so important, is to understand, number one, everybody wants to be accepted. And a lot of the anxiety, the social anxiety and things that people are doing has a lot to do with being valued, accepted. How we accept everyone as a community and as a society, our job is to look at their humanity and treat the human being as a human being without dehumanizing them. And what they choose to do with their lives, that's on them. But our job is to help people and this is the pastor side of me, is what do we need to do to help you flourish with the social deterrence, with whatever substance abuse, whatever the historical context that you've come out of. How do you flourish?
I'm glad you said that, because that's a underlying question that I want to ask Vin about. Vin, in dealing with people in recovery, and based on experiences you yourself have had, is it stressful for a person in recovery to manage money? And let me just tell you, as someone who has abused drugs, when I was struggling with that crack thing and I found a $20 bill on the ground, I wasn't thinking about eating. I wasn't thinking about clothes. I was thinking about where I could go and get me $20 worth of drugs. Managing money, Van, help me out. Is that stressful for the person in recovery?
So it absolutely is an issue for. I'm gonna go a step further, Donnie, because you've been using that phrase. So I just don't like to be specific to the term drug addiction. I try and stay close to the much broader term of mental health, right? Because drug addiction is nothing more than uh, one of the tentacles of mental health entirely.
I'm telling
So
you, Vin, I get that $20 bill and my stomach started doing somersaults.
I understand, but for the person who is a scratch off fiend, they taking that 20 and they thinking about going and get another scratch off, and they might be able to triple or quadruple. So I'm just looking at the broader picture with that.
Do you think their stomach flipped too?
Oh yeah, just the stomach is not flipping for the drug. The stomach is flipping for that thing, right? And that thing is whatever it is that we have aligned our spirits to. The drugs, the alcohol, the weed, the pornography. So the stomach flipping is not specific to a drug; it's specific to the behavior, right? So, and that's what I'll say about that. But about in terms of managing money, I can tell you that most of the folks who I've encountered in my program have to be taught and many times retaught money management, right? Because for different periods of time, depending upon the person, they've been taking their money and doing something else with it, and not necessarily dealing in that addictive behavior, but just doing other things that are not responsible. They ain't been paying the rent, but the rent the money might not have went all to the gambling or the drugs or the pornography, but the money did not go to where it was intended, right? So we do offer. I'm glad you said that, Donnie. Through we have a partnership with Truist Bank, where the young lady comes in and she does money management classes, and that's just one partner that we have. We also are talking to another bank, Harbor Bank, which is the only African American bank in Baltimore. Um, Brother Stan, a fellow poly grad. He came out after I did, but he poly grad nonetheless. Brother Stan, so we're talking to them about potentially have them coming down also and teaching some money management class, because I need people who have that profession, because it's not me. Because I'm still struggling myself with 24 years clean and several businesses and property. I still struggle with managing money myself. And to me, mismanagement means not sending it the dollar to where it necessarily needs to go, or not putting that dollar in a place where it can grow, right? Because I'm not real good at investing, but I do pay bills a lot better. My credit score is a little bit better, but I could do better. You know what I mean? That's personal. So
You
again,
being modest, man. You being modest, but I'm gonna let you slide since this is our first time talking about money on the air. So,
thank you,
so
bro.
Reverend Bonds, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things that in keeping with the mental health and money, a lot of people don't understand how you behave with your money speaks to your mental health as well.
Ooh.
So how you practice on your day to day really speaks to where you are. You, no, you have people called, even in investing, you have emotional investors. You have emotional spenders. You have that speaks to your mental health, Donnie. It is so important that we understand the stakes. I'll give you an example. My 24-year-old has been day trading for a very long time, and he, one of the things that he stopped doing was smoking weed over the past 2 months. 6 years he smoked weed. He said, "I'm a much better investor because I'm not as anxious and I have way more patience now that I stopped doing. I see things differently." And so bringing out conversation and mental health, substance abuse, and money, it all goes together. Being an emotional spender, emotional eater, all of that, your space, your internal space plays a very important part in how you externally function, especially with money. So that's the only thing I would add with that.
Well, no, I'm not going to let you off that easily. I remember you ran a restaurant on Charles Street. I remember it because Be More News, we held
Yes,
a number of networking events and power lunches there.
Yes, sir.
Care to touch it from a business perspective, the need for business owners to be mentally stable and invest and manage their money, because you're not just responsible for you and your family, but your other people are dependent on you. And Ben can comment on that too. So let's start with you, Reverend.
Yeah, so I think that this conversation is so important. And I'm gonna give a quick strategy, man. I'm gonna give you a quick strategy. And the unfortunate part, only 2% of all the people that's working will ever be entrepreneurs. That's sad, right? 2%, you know what I mean? But the problem is our school systems, and we don't set people up to be entrepreneurs, we set them up to be workers. One of the first things I'm going to tell everybody to do is, see, the ultimate goal is not to make money. The ultimate goal is to keep money. And so we don't have practices in place to help us keep money. For example, one of the number one things that makes you a great entrepreneur and really to identify your mental health is, if I say I'm going to budget from here, from the next 14 days, I'm going to bring this down, I'm going to keep this money. If you haven't done that, there's something going on. What stopped you? What kept you away? And if you do that, if that's the way that you live, you're now shaping yourself to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is really about how much you're able to bring to the bottom line, not how much money you can make. Speaking of the restaurant, I made a lot of money, but the inability to bring it to the bottom line became one of the bigger problems while we had to close. Because even though you're making money coming in, the ability to bring things to the bottom line, to set a goal and hit that goal, is really the key to entrepreneurship. But that has more to do with your mental health and your practice. Listen, when anxiety comes, you go back to what you will practice and what you will model, not what you know is right. Please remember that. When anxiety comes, people go back to what they practice and what they will model. If you got a bad practice and a bad model, when stress comes, that's what you're going to go back to. And that's the problem with business. That's all I would drop on that.
Ben, you want to touch that?
Yeah, um, I too had, I had, I've had a few businesses, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, Pastor. It's about what you're doing with that money. You know, um, I've been fortunate enough to actually no. So my mismanagement has caused me to go into bankruptcy twice, clean, right? And I'll share that with you. I'm not tripping off that. I've had to file Chapter 7 twice. Chapter 7 is total liquidation, not a review of bills and paying creditors over a period of time. Not the Chapter 11, Chapter 7, and I'm not proud of that. But you know, um, so that the last one was in 2010, and it came out my credit report in 2017, actually 2018. Um, it was after my divorce. Had some things together, so I filed for Chapter 7, and the Chapter 7 took about 6 months, but it stays on your credit report for 7 years before you can actually have it to have removed. So I was grateful to have removed in 2018. So I understand mismanagement. I understand the repercussions of mismanagement because it's not always immediate, right, Brother Bonds? It's not always immediate. So the credit score is impacted. And as we move along and we get older, we get more mature, we get a great desire to do some things where credit is necessary. And it's another thing that isn't taught to our community, right? Well, it wasn't for a very long time. It's a lot better now. We weren't taught the value of credit, of good credit, right? And
No one
so
talked about it.
that's right. That's right.
I mean, when we went to college, I was down in Atlanta. All I know is I started getting these credit card applications, and I remember my parents had never talked to me about that.
That's right. That's right, Brother Donnie. Because oftentimes, so in our generation, me, you, and Patrick Corey, and I don't know if I shouldn't speak generally. So my parents, they did not grow up being credit worthy or credit educated people. It wasn't until they became adults themselves, because of where we are in our society as Black folk, that they became educated and they started to get credit and realize the value of it as adults and started doing the proper things. So it goes back to if we're able to teach our kids that early on, we give them so much of an advantage, man. You know what I mean? I'm talking about in these present days. So, but I want to go back to something else that we were talking about earlier in regards to Pastor Corey and the We Are Us movement, right? So we were forced. I'm sorry. We were blessed to have an event, Donnie. I think I sent it to you when I was there at in Woodland and Park Heights on Saturday, right? I know you know about it, Pastor Corey, because I think I sent you some pictures, Pastor. I don't know if you got them because you ain't quick to return your text messages. That's okay. So we had a community event, man. It was absolutely wonderful. We gave away food. We had vendors there, giving away free resources. Um, uh, Senator Antonio Hayes was there from the 40th district. Candidate Dixon was there. Sheila was down there. I don't know if the mayor came because I left after a couple hours. Dr. Bunny was there, of course. There was a lot of folks there. Miss Jiggets from Park Heights Renaissance was there. It was just a wonderful thing, and it was so great to have in the community. A lot of folks came out who were in need. A lot of dinners were given out by Cap Muhammad and his group. It was a wonderful, wonderful thing, and that happens not just on an occasion. Since I've been fortunate enough to be associated with this organization, I have seen the consistency of the group and the mission to be about the community. And I'm so happy and proud to be a part of the organization. I don't know what to tell you. So I can remember, Pastor Corey, when we walked down, we was up on Pennsylvania and North Avenue. The very last time when I was walking with you guys a couple months ago, I saw, Don, there's no lie, I saw probably 12 or 13 of my former clients along that walk, right? Because we started out down the street. We came up there and we made, it's a circle, right? And about 13 of my former clients was up there, man. And I listen. Some of them shied away because they saw me. Is that Mr. McCormick? Oh man, some of them did that, and some of them, because I greet them. I'm gonna greet them and I'm gonna hug them, man, because I'm glad to see them. I don't, I don't really care what they're doing because they're doing what they want to do. I don't get in the way of that. And I ain't gonna have no whole long conversation with you because I don't know what you got on you. And let's just keep it a stat. So, but I greet them, man. Listen, I see you, man. Oh, I ain't hold no judgment because it took me 13 times to get clean this time. So I'm so proud of this organization, man, because like they Master P, they bought it. Don, I know you know, but for the viewing public, We Are Us is really, really about the community. We had an event, man, 1,000 men on schedule at the Empowerment Temple, man. And I can just tell you so much, man, because I get amped up about that because they really about the community and we really be out in them streets, man. And that's what we need. And there is not another organization that I'm familiar with, right? Don, you can tell me because you're a man of Baltimore, that goes out into the community with the consistency and with the measure of resources that We Are Us does. Ain't that right, Pastor Cord?
I have to agree with you. I don't know any other organizations. I think there's a lot of great organizations out there doing great work.
Sure.
I don't know anyone doing it like that.
Right.
Doing it the way. Yeah.
Well, I would only add that I've marched with We Our Us, but I'm gonna tell you, when I see them cats from the nation and they come in like 100 deep, oh, that's the only thing better. That uniformity, them cats got their hats on, got the fedoras on, sharp as a tack, all ages. It's a reminder to us that even though some news outlets are going to paint a picture of our community one way, I am glad to be there with my camera to capture us that way.
Right.
Something mainstream will never tell, because they always want to paint a picture of us with their own camera. But I've seen beautiful things. I remember when the little girl got killed in front of Lillian Jones' record, Reverend Bonds.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
And y'all went and formed and united in front of the family's house there at Gilmore Homes.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
And I want to add too, Donnie, that this is a collection of Christians and Muslims working together, right? Where a lot of people don't think that we do, right? And they might not believe it because they don't come out and see it. We actually we culminate together. We're very, very harmonious in what we do. My hats off to Pastor Barnes, man, and Captain Andrew Muhammad, man, and certainly not to get Dr. Bunley, but those cats, and I've named those because those are religious leaders, right?
Bishop Elliott. I remember Bishop Elliott.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm glad
when we first started going out in the community 20-some years ago, yeah. Bishop Elliott wasn't praying with the Muslims. He wasn't doing it. I'm right. A witness.
Bishop is a spiritual and religious OG up in Park Heights and been there. I forgot how long Pastor he's been up there. He just celebrated an anniversary not too long ago. I was able to be a part of that. But yeah, so we got some people who have been doing this work longer than We Are Us has been activated, and they continue to be at work, and they lend their skill set and their passion to this organization. So I don't want to, because I could be all day with that, man. I'm just so proud to be a part of that. And
I am proud of you too, Reverend Bonds, because you call God this, I call God that. It's but one God.
Yes, sir.
The same God made you, made me, and if we're gonna get caught up on semantics, then we ain't learned nothing.
Right. And I'll just add this, Donnie, is that, the brothers from the nation has, one of the things I know for sure is that serious people about God and faith all look the same. Let me say that again. Serious people about their God and their faith all look the same. Andrew and Knox and Brother Carlos and all those guys, it all looks the same. Like, because we believe in the same thing when it comes to our community. We believe in the same thing when it comes to our health and our mind and discipline. All of us, so that's what I love about it. Health looks the same. You know what I mean? A healthy Muslim and a healthy Christian looks very similar. You know what I mean? A healthy Jew and a healthy Christian and a healthy Muslim look very similar. They understand that that's why it's unified and there's such power there, because, we all want the same thing. Our people are suffering, and we gotta hit this thing from one fist of helping to remove the suffering of our people. When we got black men, in 2018 it was 308 murders. 275 of those were black men, and 175 of them were black men giving headshots. We We don't have time to be arguing over no religion or when our people are dying on the street at the hands of each other. We don't have time for that. So that's why this is so serious. We got one common mission, which is to save our people. Black men going out to get our black boys and saving them. And, and I'm honored to do this with Muslims, Christians, whoever want to save our people. That's what we're about. So that's where we are,
Vin, any final thoughts for today's show?
Just that we are all we got.
That's right.
We are all we got. To piggyback on not that he needs piggybacking, but we had to save us. The governorship changes every 4 years. The mayoralship changes every 4 years. Different people going to be in that office. We're going to have the same issues in Baltimore, right? And I'm not taking anything away from those from Mayor Scott or Governor Moore. I'm not speaking specifically, but that office changes. And then we have to hope that the mindset of the new person is aligned with what we're trying to do. So we have to do what we need to do as a community, right, to save our community. It's just that simple. So, Pastor Corey, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate that. I love and respect you, brother, for real.
I love you too, brother. I appreciate, man. My life is better because I've met Dennis, and I have a better life now that I've met you.
Man, thank you, bro. Appreciate you, brother. Diane, thank you, man.
Good deal. Up to day, down tomorrow, do your day, and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. Thank you both, gentlemen. I am somebody.
My man.
I am my brother's keeper. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.